and the daughter of her father writes this. I can imagine, though he did not show it, that Black Elk was even more excited about our trip than we three Niners. He considered this his second trip to the center of the earth, the first having been when, as a 9-year-old, he was taken there in his great vision. We too believed it was so. We drove to Brennan, then followed dusty Highway 18 to Hot Springs, where we took Highway 83 north through Custer, South Dakota to Sylvan Lake. I believe it must have been at Hot Springs that we stopped for lunch, and then we found something exciting and novel to do. There was a carnival in town, and Enid and I were eager to go on the Ferris wheel. I remember that with what humorous camaraderie the old holy man himself was urged to take a ride on the wheel. The only thing about this incident that has remained bright and clear in my mind is that Black Elk did ride the Ferris wheel, and that he was terrified. Each time the wheel was stopped to let someone step down or take a seat, it seemed that Black Elk and I were at the very top, rocking precariously back and forth. That was a bit disconcerting, even for someone who had ridden a wheel before, but for Black Elk it was worse. I don't know whether Ben had ever ridden a Ferris wheel, but certainly Black Elk had not. Each time the wheel turned so our seats were near the ground and it would have been possible to let us off, Black Elk called out, "Top, top." That was the only English word I ever heard him say. Of course, our ride did finally end and the Ferris wheel did stop. And then she goes on. The whole article is just very, very interesting, but I'm not going to read it all, of course. Then when they get there on the climb, she describes that. On that morning, the climb seemed fairly easy to the three of us, for we often hiked in the rugged Missouri Ozarks. For Ben, too, the hike was not demanding, but for Black Elk, who at 68 seemed exceedingly old to me, it was not so easy, and we did stop several times to rest. I remember feeling like a puppy running back and forth as we climbed, drinking in all the wonders of the mountains. On the way up, we looked across from one rocky promontory to another and saw a white mountain goat basking in the sunshine. During the climb up the peak, Ben told us that Black Elk had remarked to him in his mysterious way that if he still had power, something should happen up on the mountaintop. When Ben asked what that might be, he had responded that there should be a little lightning, a little thunder, and a little rain. Since his power had come from the west, from the thunder beings, such would be the greeting they would send him if he still had power. And it does happen when he gets up there. They're in a drought, and it hasn't rained for a long, long time. And this does happen. There is thunder, there's lightning, and there's a few raindrops. It does happen. This is kind of interesting. I'm going to read just another little paragraph. Black Elk had carefully planned what would happen on the peak. Before leaving Manderson, he had purchased a set of red flannel underwear. In his vision, his whole body had been painted red, and to reenact the scene on this day, he really should have been naked, his body painted red, wearing only a breechcloth. But Enid and I were there, and he did not wish to embarrass us, thus the red underwear. Okay, let's see. I had pictures of Flag Mountain. Has anyone been up to Flag Mountain? Okay, that was a beautiful stone structure with wood, and that was torn down. And all that remains, I did get there because you can drive pretty much all the way up to it, 78, is the stonework. And of course the CCCs had to use the harness system and the pulley. They would harness themselves, and they'd have buckets and whatever in the pulley system, drag that rock up to the top of the hill, hard work. And they built, you know, the beautiful Flag Mountain. I think it's really pretty. Let's see, right there is what it looked like when they were finished. Very nice. And then 76. And then they tore it down. This is all that's left, but look, the stone is still there. I mean, they did such beautiful work. The stone is still there, and you could go down some steps. The privy was still there, but the roof was caving in, and they had nice little steps you could go to, and it looks out on Reynolds Prairie, which is just beautiful. Such a beautiful, beautiful spot. But that's all that's there anymore.
You guys went up in the truck, will my Impala make it?
Well, I don't know, that road's kinda rocky and
It's
rough going
okay.
up, so I don't know about a car, but we took a pickup up there that day. We have pictures of all of the fire towers, except for one, that's Signal Hill. Anybody have a picture of Signal Hill? Okay, that's the only one we couldn't find. I am gonna skip some of this because without my
You're not
power,
talking about Signal Heights in Rapid City.
I don't know. They call it Signal Hill, but we couldn't find anything about it.
Where is it?
Well, we don't know that either,
Yeah,
do we? No.
I didn't.
It was
don't
just
recall.
listed on a list of something, and we couldn't find that. So I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because this is gonna, without the PowerPoint, it's gonna be tough to show you this stuff. So a lookout's knowledge of the area, a firefinder, a map, binoculars, and a communication system were the tools of a lookout's trade. Designed in the 1930s, the Osborne Firefinder is an LED used to find a directional bearing. It rotates 360 degrees, is inaccurate, and requires no special operative power. How many have used one of these or seen one in operation?
Isn't that what they're still using on top of
Mhm.
Custer Gate? Yep.
Yes, and I have several pictures in this. Here, of course, is the binoculars. And underneath is his Osborne Firefinder. And one of the rules, this is kind of a funny picture, because in one of the rules I read somewhere, you're not supposed to place anything on the Osborne Firefinder. Well, here he is, he's got his binoculars on there. So he's already violating one of the rules of a lookout. Thought that was pretty cool. Here's a really old picture of someone using Osborne. And here's another one looking through the sights. I had an opportunity to use one, but I probably wouldn't understand it anyway, so. And then there was a map, they had a map that went with it where they could pinpoint the directional bearings. And when they first called in fires, they had the telephone system, then they had the radio system later.
How far back does telephone and radio go in the firefighting?
I have it written in here, but I can't remember when the radios came into play.
I think it was along with the radius.
Oh yeah, it's in here, but I don't know exactly where. I have it written down in here, but.
Buy the book and you can find out.
Yeah, there you go. But it's a very interesting book. And here's the interior of one of the, this is Warren Peak, I believe, in Wyoming. Because we went into Wyoming and did some of theirs. This is the interior of one, because to start with, they lived in a lot of these. The cab was big enough where they could live in it. And the ones that didn't have a cab, then they built a cabin beside the tower. Then they could go up and stay in the cabin. Sometimes they stay there all summer because the roads weren't, accessible, so they could just run home at night and whatever. So they just were cozy, very isolated. Another thing we learned about when we researched these and talking to different lookout people were the thunderstorms, the lightning at the top of these things. It was terrifying. I wouldn't want to be there. They had these fire stools, they called them, where they sat on them, they were supposed to ground them. Well, they didn't always work, I guess, but some of them were just, really, really severe storms. Other people, most people liked it up there, they wouldn't do it, a solitude, and visitors would climb up and visit with them, and then they would give them information on the towers and so forth. Are there any questions? I know I didn't go through it as organized as I wanted to, but, if you have a chance, we brought some extra books with us if you want to look through them and whatever. You can look through them and see all the different towers and whatever. And of course, you were just talking about McGillicuddy. Here he is. He's in our book, of course. It had a lot to do with the Hardy Peak, and he's buried up there, and ashes and so forth. So we have something on him. And then there's the, I guess you call it a crypt on there. So he's in our book also. Any questions? Yes.
Did you happen to visit Cement Ridge in Wyoming? South
I
Dakota?
did, but Bobby did.
I did.
That one is set up for easy access, or and it's certain amount of restoration, new privies,
Yeah,
tourist attraction.
and, snowmobilers can stop up there
I suppose,
over
yeah,
the winter
reasonably easy to
That's
get to.
open, yeah.
Unfortunately, there's been some vandalism because of the access.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I read that, you know, they're having trouble with vandalism, which is
I'm
really
sure,
unfortunate.
yeah.
But, and then we went up to Warren Peak together.
Right.
And it was so windy that day that we didn't climb the tower, but it's just beautiful views, you know, from the top of those
Gorgeous.
fire towers. And, just to think of the people who were up there and for the summer and spent a lot of time up there. Any other questions?
When was Flag Mountain dismantled?
I gotta look that up.
It's in there.
It's in here, yeah.
I have a signed copy, well, signed by Bobby, but at home, so.
Where is that?
But this represented a change in philosophy of the Forest Service in terms of fire detection, when they started dismantling and abandoning these towers.
Well, economics had a lot to do with it. I think they're still trying to work out the philosophy on fires and how to manage them.
But a lot of it was started to be done by air instead.
Yeah, they did a lot of air. Where's the date on this thing here?
Yes?
The Forest Service had the bright idea of putting honeymoon couples in there, in the tire towers for 3 months. The only trouble is, when they came down, they got divorced. They had to quit that process.
Well, I wrote about that in one of his, what was his name, Tulsa's son or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
He and his wife honeymooned up there, and I don't know,
That was.
They were together.
Cement Ridge, yeah.
in Cement Ridge, is that where that was?
I think so,
I don't
yeah.
have the date when this was dismantled, I guess, sorry about that.
Are any towers in use today?
Yes, well, when we did this book, there were 4 of them still
Right.
in use, and one was,
Mr. Peak, Warren Peak.
Was Mount Coolidge in use?
no, is it?
well,
Yes,
yes,
it is,
yeah.
that was in one of them, yes, and either Bear Mountain or Summit, I think it was Bear Mountain was still
I think so.
in use. There were 4, I think, and now I'm not sure, I'd hate to say for sure, because it's been a couple of years since we finished this. But this is a nice picture of, Seth Bullock, the wooden tower coming down. Well, it's a beautiful tower. This makes me sad to think that they blew these things up. And then they put up a steel one. But of course, that's the way they did it. And, okay, any more questions? Okay, well, I'll turn it over to Bobby, and I think her PowerPoint's gonna work.